Welcome to episode 36, Construction Nation. This is Sue Dyer, your host of Construction Dream Team, where I interview industry leaders and experts so you can learn about the people side of construction and build your construction dream team based on OPE, other people's experiences. Why suffer when you can learn from the best of the best? And that's what we try to bring you here on Construction Dream Team. People that have been out there making it happen so that you can learn their tricks and tips. So, have you ever been over to our website? Check it out. We have all sorts of resources there that every single member has contributed. And they're all together at Construction Dream Team /resources. They're all compiled. This is all the best advice and the best resources people that have been on the podcast have shared with all of you, Construction Nation. So go and check that out, please. And today we are so excited to have one of my favorite people, Dave Niese. Now, I've known Dave, let's see, I would say at least maybe a few decades here. And a long time. We've worked on quite a few projects together. And also, Dave was one of the trainers for the Caltrans Fundamentals of Partnering, where we went out and trained 4,000 different project professionals in the fundamentals of making partnering work on Caltrans projects. And it was a pretty phenomenal thing. And he was one of our rock stars, maybe the rock star, but certainly one of the rock stars in the trainers. And what I noticed over the years is the people that did the training really became rock stars in the industry. So, it goes back to when you teach things, you really learn it at a deeper level, and you teach people what they need to do to really make their projects work. And so he is one of these rock stars and is now at Granite Construction, and he is a project executive in their large project group. That's projects of $250 million or more. So welcome to Construction Dream Team.
Thank you, Sue.
We're so glad you're here. So, okay, I told them a little bit about your journey, but tell us about your journey to becoming now project executive at Granite.
Well, for me, I grew up in a business. I had a father who was a civil engineer. I had an uncle who had his own construction company. And I think I was probably 9 years old when my cousins first put me on a dozer. My aunt was not happy about it, and she I'm not sure she took him out back and whooped him or not, but yeah, it was a 9-year-old on a dozer. Probably wasn't a good thing, but I did it. So yeah, growing up in industry, I worked a lot with the family. I used to go out on surveys with my dad when I was just old enough to walk. He did a lot of surveying. I go out and do that with him. But I think my first job not working for a family was actually in high school. I got a job for a small engineering firm in San Bernardino, California. This firm did a lot of developments, street improvement plans, but they also did a lot of work on accident reconstruction. So I used to go out on surveys with that and actually put together reports from accidents that happen on highways. And I got introduced to, I think, the highway construction manual back then in high school, because we used to kind of pull it out and see what was not working on the roadway, what may have caused the accident. But from there, went on to college at USC, still worked part-time for this engineering firm through the years, all the way through college. After I finished with USC, I took a job with Caltrans. It was one of those things, at the time, I wasn't sure about it, but my dad says, hey, be good learning experience for you. So I thought I'd give it 2 years and I'd move on to something else. Well, 2 years turned into 13 years with Caltrans. It was a great learning experience. I learned a lot from my time there. But, back in, I guess it was now 1995, that's when I made the jump to the private industry on the heavy civil construction side. I took a job with FCI Constructors at the time and worked with them for many years. But now for the last 5 years, I've been with Granite Construction, working with the large projects group, as you mentioned. And we really deal with alternative delivery procurements. Couple $1 billion projects that we have going on right now, and pursuing other projects about those same sizes. So lot of different work, a little different than when I started out with just the bid build work, and a little bit different attitudes that we have to have as contractors when we get in this side of the business.
And I want to make sure we have a chance to talk about that, the leadership differences and maybe the attitudes you were just talking about that are needed for these new procurement methodologies. Let's make sure we talk about that.
Okay.
But before that, I wanted you to share with us your story, because I heard the most phenomenal story about it. He called himself from SOB to collaborative leader. I want to hear the story and share that with everyone here. So let's hear about you as an SOB.
Well, the SOB would not be the descriptor I would use. I would rather consider my former self as a hardliner. So, and as a hardliner, I believed in doing it the right way, and I believe there was only one right way. I think maybe the SOB comes in because the right way is usually my way. But I was a hardliner. I really. I took it to heart about, my dad kind of grilled into me. Everything's had to be kind of perfected. And that was always with me. I wanted to perfect myself and other people around me if they weren't that way. I think, okay, get out of the way and, make room for the people that can do it type thing. So, I think the story you are referring to is, my first job as a resident engineer for Caltrans. I went through their training program, a couple of years with that, but and finally got promoted and got my first job as a resident engineer. So on this job, I knew the contract inside and out. Once again, I'm trying to be the perfectionist, trying to know everything there. I knew it, and I expected my contractor to know it also. So we go through the project, and contractor, he's struggling a little bit, and he's not getting things done, and he's starting to lose money, and he's filing claims, and all this time says, nope, this is the contract. Go do the contract. And he did not give him relief on anything. I just held him to the letter of the law type thing. And I think, okay, that's the right thing to do. And, that was also supported to do. So when project finished, we had several claims on the project. Each step of the claim process, Caltrans had their resolution periods, and each one of those steps, I won on my portion of the claim. So I hands down, I was in the right, I was winning, and yes, it was a matter of win-lose for me at the time. There was none of this win-win. It was win-lose, and I was winning. I believed I was winning. I'll put it that way. I believed I was winning. Every step of the way, the board that was reviewing it would side with me on it. But in the end, what happened is this contractor, he actually went bankrupt. So the bonding company stepped in, and it was probably at this point where the Caltrans lawyer started talking with the bonding company and actually settled the claims with the bonding company. At this point, I'm thinking, how can you settle these claims? I'm right. The contract's a contract. How can you settle these claims? Well, that lawyer's name was Fred Gravy. And, I talked to him after that. And his simple answer to me when I asked him why did he settle, he says, it was bad for business. At the time, I didn't really get that. But through the years, I started understanding. He was looking at the big picture. Yes, you can be a hardliner. You can go through all these things and and hold the contractor's feet to the fire on absolutely everything. But what happens, if the contractor, if he's struggling and he's going through this and you're making it worse for him with these claims and everything like that, and not working with him, it's going to cost him more money. And if you do this hard line across the board, all the contractors start spending more money. If a bonding company has to step in to finish out a job, that's going to cost more money. So Fred understood that it was going to cost Caltrans, their program, more money if they did not settle these claims reasonably with the contractor. And so that was, kind of the start of the process for me to, start trying to understand that piece of it. To, goes into the part in which, we're going to be talking about here is can you still get what you need out of that contract but help the contractor out. And now I'm on the contracting side. I want an owner that is going to work with me on things. There's going to be things the owner needs. He has a contract. I firmly believe, once again, it doesn't matter what side I'm on. Firmly believe in that contract. But there's always things that we can do to help each other out on a project.
Yeah, it's so important to what comes to my mind is really the intentions behind how you work together as a team. We all know that the RE or the project manager that relationship makes or breaks a project. But what's your intention? So I see so many people, and it doesn't matter whether it's a project manager, an RE, could even be a CM who's representing the owner, and their intention is to win at least something. And so with that intention, you're looking to get something on someone, right? You're not looking to work together. And then we wonder why we can't communicate, because we're not even talking to each other. We're talking at each other and trying to manipulate or get something or find a loophole or whatever it is. And it happens, it isn't one side isn't worse than the other. It's pretty much universal.
Yeah.
But intention matters.
And, I do have, it's probably one contract, what I say is it's probably the turning point in my career where it really sunk in on what I needed to do. And, on this contract, the owner hired a construction management firm to, do their contract for them. Well, this construction management firm came in and really rewrote, they took a lot of the Caltrans specifications, but they rewrote them and took out all dispute resolution clauses. They tried to set everything up so they could really go after the contractor and hold his feet to the fire. Going back to my experience as a first-time resident engineer, but they set the contract up that way. So we get into this contract, and I got a project manager out there, and it quickly we can tell how this is going to set up. We did manage to get a partnering meeting set up for the project. But the first partnering session, we're in there, the partner facilitator actually pulled me aside before the meeting actually kicked off, says, we're probably going to have a problem here, because the owner's rep was in there. He was rearranging name tags, just really trying to control everything for this process. And when it came time to set up the escalation ladder, he wanted himself at every level on the escalation ladder. So essentially, we had no escalation ladder because he was at every level, and he was the one that's saying no all the way along the way. Well, in the end, they're just a construction management firm. We had claims on the job. We kind of put our head down on the job and got the work done, make sure that all the disputes did not affect the work. And in that respect, yes, we got it done. But yes, we had claims in the end. I'd say also it was not a very fun job for my staff on the project. It was one of those projects where the letters get exchanged at 5 o'clock on Fridays. And it's just no fun because you're going into the weekend with all these nasty letters that you receive. Plus, you had your own. We gave them the nasty letters right back. But in the end, I did settle with the project owner on the project. But the toll it took on my staff, it was really tough. And it wasn't until the follow-on project was the project right after that. I asked my project manager to. I had another project starting up. And he's going to have a long commute for this project, but I really need him on it. So I asked him, hey, will you do this longer commute? And he just gone through 2 years of just miserable, work experience. And he wasn't keen on it. He says, okay, I'll give you 6 months, get it started up, but please, find somebody else to work on this project. So we go into the project, and I go also myself, my frame of mind is coming off this worst, I call it the worst partner project ever. I was not going to let that happen again. So this project that we started up, I had a relationship with a construction manager from the owner on this one. And we set it up that part of our partnering charter, we said we're going to win partnering goals on this project. But, fast forward 6 months into the project, things were going very good. I went back to my project manager and said, hey, would you like to be removed from this project? He says, no. Things are going good. So he was now happy with where he's working. Therefore, the commute really didn't make a difference to him. Mm-hmm. But it really was, it's not a matter of going back to the winning and the losing. If the project staff, if they are happy on both sides, everything just starts falling into place. Your quality is better. Your safety is better. Your production rates are better because everybody's happy about coming to work that day because we're working together towards a common goal of finishing the project. And that, it took that one job. Says, I'm never going to let that happen again. And to this day, I don't let my staff write a letter on a Friday. It says, you will not turn out a letter on a Friday. If it absolutely has to be done, you will make sure that you have a phone call in advance. You discuss them in advance, so it does not come as a surprise. But Friday letters, not the thing. It can wait over the weekend, think about it again, and then send it out.
Yeah, it's so important to lead and help create that atmosphere. And far too many people, I don't think, take the reins and allow it to make sure it happens, because it's just miserable. and very cost ineffective for everyone. It's a lose, lose, lose for every side. So what would be your advice? You've learned over the years working on a lot of projects that you really have to work in this collaborative environment, and that's the only way you kind of keep people. And boy, is that important in this marketplace when we have such a hard time finding people and young people are not wanting to come into the industry. What would be your advice to someone who is just starting their career?
Don't let the daily grind keep them from stepping back and looking at the big picture. I guess, everything we do out there, you should be looking forward to, okay, what am I doing right now? What is it? Does this really matter? And how's this going to affect the future going forward with anything you're going? It doesn't have to be anything huge, but just the simple steps along the way. I go back to, I mentioned, my first job as a resident engineer. Not looking at the big picture. I was only concentrated on those little pieces of the contract. And I was kind of being supported on that too with my management that was, looking at me. So do the contract. If I had taken back, say, hey, is there something different I can be doing here? I probably could have helped that contractor out. He probably could have done a better job on the project. We probably could have finished sooner, and still everyone would have been much happier on the project. But no, I was concentrating on those little pieces on the contract. I didn't step back and understand what the ramifications might be. So if someone's starting out, says, look at the big picture, what you might be working on. Keep the big picture in mind, and don't let your head down all the time. Have a tendency to look up once in a while and see what's going on.
That's cool. Yeah. And so important too, when you're first starting out, it sounds like in order to get that perspective, perhaps you need a mentor. And I'm always sort of surprised on projects where not more people really have a mentor. We kind of take this Christians to the lions approach, right? We take these young people and throw them into the middle and say, well, if you survive, you'll be good, rather than kind of mentoring them along the way. So that would be probably a nice thing to be happening in the industry more, a little more mentorship. So, okay, I know you've had to deal with a lot of conflict. We've talked about a couple projects where you had issues, but how do you lead your team when there's conflict? What are you doing when you see this conflict coming? What do you do as the leader?
Well, you certainly want to have your partnering process in place. Understand the fundamentals of partnering. Have your process. Have your the process going on. And I think for me, the biggest thing is we don't listen enough when we're doing things. And I always go back, Steve Covey's 7 Habits, I really enjoyed that. But, the one habit, seek first to understand. So if you go into something, if you understand the position of who you're dealing with, what they're trying to get at, it might change what you might do. Once again, I'm going to say you can do things to help the other guy out and get what you need at the same time. So with that, it's if you have conflict, if you see conflict arising, take a step back, listen to what's going on, listen to see where the conflict might be coming from, and is there a change that you can make to avoid that conflict? Or if the conflict's already there, you use the partnering processes. And I also really like using the facilitator. If I have something that's really coming up, I don't have to put myself in the middle of it. I have to have my staff put themselves in the middle of it. We can use that facilitator to help the process along, to get the communication going. And that just, it takes it away from the daily, in your face working with somebody. Say, okay, let somebody else maybe work it a little bit differently, present it, the ideas maybe in a different way. Might come up on, the monthly surveys on the partnering process. It might come up in the quarterly meetings on the partnering process. But then you start working the problem a different way. But you're also understanding what the problem really is just by listening to what's going on.
Yeah, a third-party facilitator, neutral facilitator, can help allow a dialogue to occur, especially when there's a lot of conflict. So that's a great tool. What kind of things can people do to lead their team when it's really, really, really struggling and it's poor communication, and you've tried your partnering and it helped, but as soon as a few days go by, it's gone back to the way it used to be? You got any tips for that?
I think the escalation ladder can be a huge help on things. And once again, if you're no matter what level it is, if you're daily grinding on something, you're just not getting there, the conflict's not getting resolved, maybe you need to take a step back, give it to your supervisor, kick it up the chain. Let somebody else deal with it so you don't have to deal with it anymore. Let that, that happen up there. And by doing so, it relieves you or the person that has the first line on the conflict, it relieves them of having to worry about it anymore. They've kicked it up. They can move on, the other things that they should be worrying about. And then the person on the next level of the escalation ladder, they're probably going to have another point of view on it. Just another set of eyes looking at it, and they might be able to come up with a resolution that you weren't thinking about because you're down in the trenches, you're grinding on it every day, you weren't thinking of that solution. So using that escalation ladder and kicking things up, and it's also a matter of not taking it personal. There's going to be contract disputes. We're always going to have it. Every contract I see there's always this notification clause. We have to notify our partner if there's a conflict coming up. We have the obligation to. We usually also be a contract requirement to, and we want to do that, but we should not be offended when we get a potential claim notice or dispute notice or something like that. It just means, hey, we have something we need to be talking about. So don't take offense of it. Just means that, hey, here's a situation. We got to talk about this. We got to come up with a solution here. And kicking it up the escalation ladder, if it gets to the end, gets to the top of that ladder, still can't be resolved. It might go to a claim at the end of the job, but hopefully through time we're going to come up with a solution on it. But the bottom line is never let it affect the work going on in the field. Keep the work going, because if you go out there and say you're going to let it affect the work, it's just going to make things worse in the field. So get the issues on the table, let those issues work out, and keep the work in the field going smoothly.
One of the things I hear a lot about using the issue resolution ladder, especially with people that aren't really used to it, is that their big concern is giving up the issue and either fear that they're going to be judged that somehow they didn't do their job, or fearing that if it goes up, they won't do the right thing. And so I'm not letting go of this.
Well, that goes back to I was a hardliner. I just do it the right way, and it's my way is the right way. I fully thought that way, and really, what I was doing, I was not doing my job very well. I have to admit I was not doing my job because here was a contractor, he was struggling in a contract, he ended up going bankrupt, a bonding company had to step in, and if I had handled it differently, if I had done my job differently, I could have affected that outcome. If I had used the escalation ladder, more often and allow somebody else to step in to resolve the dispute, that is doing my job. By not using it, I'm not doing my job. I'm not seeking resolution on something because it might be very personal to me. I have to give that up. Let somebody else resolve the claim because really you're looking for the resolution of the issue and not whether it's a win or lose. You're looking for that the fair, equitable resolution of the problem.
Fairness, that's a pretty important thing. It
fair
sounds
and
like.
Equitable.
Yes. And it's been so fun to watch teams, even if they're in high conflict. I've never seen a team that couldn't kind of figure out what was fair. If they really would talk to each other and kind of talk about, well, I had this pressure, and that interfered with this, and they kind of talk through it, that they come to a point where, okay, that seems fair, reasonable, justifiable, okay. And then they resolve it, and it's like, whew, now they have energy that's released to actually work on the project. Which is a big problem when we have a lot of conflict.
It's also a piece of that is also to own up to your own mistakes or your own shortcomings on something. If I have a staff out there and they've done something and it ends up becoming an issue or a conflict on the project, I'm asking them to say, hey, have you followed the contract itself? Know that contract and have you followed it? If you have done something or have not followed something on that contract, to give the owner a reason to not settle the issue, well then shame on you. So we got to make sure that we do our part on our side to take care of and own up to our own problems ourselves and take care of those problems, because only then can we then look to the owner to look at those things that we think is really a dispute where the contract has not covered it. within the contract, and for something that we do need a resolution for.
Awesome. So I know that now you're working on these large projects. They're all alternative delivery methods. And I want to make sure that we talk about that, what you're doing and your approach and how you see this approach being different, because it seems that there is a pretty big trend in the industry towards more alternative processes, and they're achieving some pretty interesting results.
Yeah, when you work in the bid build world, when you finish the contract, that's it, you go on to the next one. There is no carryover from that. There might be bad feelings, but you get the next contract, it's going to be the low bid that's going to get it. So there is no qualification process thing there. But as soon as you go to the alternative delivery, and every all the sizable contracts, and I can't think of right now anything that I've done here that has not been an alternative delivery contract. But at that point, your past performances will affect you getting future work. Every proposal we put in, we have to list our safety record. We have to list the claims we had on the past projects. We have to explain those claims to a new owner maybe that hasn't worked with us, and explain what we did, why the claim was, and how we settled that claim. And if we're going up against another company that are presenting projects that had no claims, well, that's going to put us at a disadvantage. So your past work and your past issues, not resolving those, will affect your ability to get work in the future. So it makes a whole different realm on how you approach a contract, how you approach the owner on a contract. It's very akin to working public work. Say we're a heavy civil contractor, but we also do public work. Well, a public owner, it has certain things that they have to abide by, but a private owner, if you're going to do it for a private owner, at that point, they get to pick and choose what they want to do. And some of these owners, they're going to pick you because they like you and may not have anything to do. And if you had a problem on a past problem on one of their projects, they might not like you anymore, and therefore you're not going to get the work. So your reputation, your ability to solve issues, or your ability to successfully complete a contract to everybody's fair and equitable type thing, really becomes very important on alternative delivery, because it is part of the selection process of the next one.
It seems to me that you use the word reputation. That goes for the designer who might be in part of this, as well as the owner's reputation. Are they going to attract the A teams to actually be on their projects?
Yep.
Are you seeing that as well? What would you do if you've had an owner that you didn't think was going to be fair and equitable?
Well, it goes two ways on this thing. Because I've worked also both sides of it. But if we have an owner that has a reputation for not resolving disputes, not being fair and equitable on their contracts, we choose not to deal with that owner. I gave you one. I won't mention it here, but we have walked away from contracts with owners that we did not feel were going to be able to resolve our issues during the life of the contract. And with that, says, okay, there's so much work out there, especially right now, in the last few months, there's so much work out there. We get to pick and choose what projects we're going to propose on and what owners we're going to work with. Same way, the owners get to pick and choose on us, but when we're looking at an owner, we're looking at it for an owner that is going to really match our core values, what we have as a company on fair and equitable resolution on things. And so when you have that choice, it goes both ways. The owner gets to choose who they're going to deal with, and we get to choose who we're going to, on our side, who we get the work with.
Yep. Sounds good. So I would like to shift a little bit and talk a little bit about, besides your journey from being a hardliner, I'm sure that not everything on every project has always gone perfectly as you had hoped it would. Take us back to maybe a big challenge you had and the very worst moment you faced. And what was that moment and what did you do?
Well, the very worst part, I mentioned before, it's my worst partner job ever. And and the whole job went that way. And I can't say that I did anything on that particular job to make the situation better. I think the best thing we did was we did not let the contract disputes affect the quality of the work we're doing in the field. I made sure, the superintendents, the engineers, everybody working out in the field, all the workers, that they were doing their job to the best of their ability, within the contract, and did not let that dispute spill over to that side of it to start affecting that. But really, it was the lessons learned from that to say, hey, what did we do on that one? What can we do different than the next one? Never to let that happen again. And it really was, going into our partner meetings, knowing that we want to when partner goes on the project, we want to resolve issues at the lowest level on a project. If I have my engineer and inspector out in the field, if they can resolve it on something, or the foreman and inspector, if they can resolve it, that's where I want to resolve the issue at. And that's most effective. And even when we start to use the escalation ladder anymore, when it gets up to my level, I try not to override my staff in the field, because here again, it goes back to your ownership on a problem. You feel that you're in the right. So if I can help my staff resolve the issue at their level by, letting them know, say, hey, it's okay to give in on this piece here. Hey, what about this? And get them to come up with the resolution themselves. It makes them feel better about it, rather than, I kicked up the escalation matter and my boss overrode me. That's never a good feeling. So when we use the escalation ladder, we also want to use it wisely as supervisors, as managers, to make sure our staff understands, the process, and make them feel good about the process. So if we can kick it back down to them and enable them to come up with the resolution rather than just override a decision, that is always helpful for the staff. And once again, resolving it at the lowest level possible.
Yeah, it's so important to be close to wherever the issue is. I remember years ago listening to the chief engineer at Caltrans talk about, well, I could resolve it and I will resolve it, but you won't like the way I resolve it. And the way I resolve it will not be of a lot quality, because I don't really know what's going on. So right. I suggest the person closest to the issue actually could resolve that issue a lot better than I could.
Yep, that's it.
So I really believe that everybody has a zone of genius, something that you just are really good at, and you kind of stand out with your team on this. What would you say is your zone of genius?
Yeah, I don't know that I really have a zone of genius. As a manager, I do believe, a manager should not be judged on how well they manage the A players. If you got all A players or all top-notch people, they're go-getters, well, they manage themselves. You don't have to manage them. A true manager, and this is the way I feel about it, and I think I'm good at, is taking those C players and turn them into B players, and taking your B players and turning them into A players. And to do that, you really have to understand. We talk about strengths and weaknesses, capitalize on the strength, protect the weaknesses. But I truly believe I have to understand my staff, my employees. If there's something out there that can be a stumbling block for them, I got to make sure that it doesn't become a stumbling block for them. So protect that weakness they have. I also believe in. I think I'm really good at looking for future problems, looking for those future rocks in the road. You may not be able to see them yet, but in my mind, they're already there in my mind, and other people don't see them yet. I'm pretty good at that, seeing that stuff. And it's my job to make sure I get those cleared from my employees before they get there. If I can make, I need to make their job as easy as possible to do their job, because they're the ones, out there doing the work, making the money on the project. And I have to make sure I give them the best chance possible to have a positive outcome on something. And that means if I have to get out and clear something out ahead to make sure we don't get there. I'm also big on contingency plans. Don't go into something, think it's going to happen, rosy all the way, because you're always going to have a problem. So when that problem arises, what are you going to do? If we have a nighttime closure on something out there and we're in the middle of traffic and something happens, what are you going to do when that happens? Have the plan in place, ahead of time, so when it happens, you automatically go to it. And I maybe give recently I kind of give an experience I had. This is back when I was with Caltrans, 1984 Olympics. I was in the Traffic Operations Center, and in preparation for the Olympics, we had 2 days of drills in the operations center, working with highway patrol, the city police, the emergency services, on going through drills on how we're going to handle different emergencies, should they occur during the Olympics. One of the drills they threw at us was a helicopter crash landing. A helicopter crashing is what it was. So, and we're thinking, oh yeah, right, a helicopter is really going to crash. When was the last time you ever heard of a helicopter crashing? So we're going through this drill, kind of rolling our eyes, and we're doing it. But you may not know, the 1984 Olympics closing day of the Olympics, there was a helicopter that crash landed on a freeway within a mile of the Coliseum. You don't know about it because the team had already drilled on it. They knew exactly what they had to do, who they had to call to, to get out there to clear a helicopter off the freeway. All the emergency services knew what they had to do. It was all part of the plan that we rehearsed. So we already had the contingency plan in place. So when it happened, it was just a matter of routine of making it happen. And nobody really heard about it. And so from that, I'm big on contingency planning. I have that contingency plan. You may never need it. You may never have a helicopter crash land on your freeway, but if you have that plan in place and it does happen, everything's all good.
That's so cool. That's awesome. That's a great story. So what's the best advice you've ever received?
I think I was told this advice many times. I'm not sure I took it to heart, when I was first told it to me, but the advice was, it's not enough to be right. Go back to, my hardliner roots, I was right, therefore, I thought, I'm right. But it's not enough to be right. Especially, I said, when we get in these alternative delivery contracts, and you really have to make sure everybody, has the feeling of what is right on something. So you might, believe it is right. You might have in your mind what is right. You might even say, in contractually something is right. But unless everybody's on board with that, it's not enough. So you really need to spend time on the collaborative effort on what we do. We need to listen more, listen to what people are saying, listen to what's going on before we come in and say, hey, this is the right thing to do. So the best advice I got was it's not enough to be right.
That's a cool one. We like to have everyone get a gift from you, like your favorite resource or book or podcast or link, or what you got for us.
So, there's this couple out there. I'm giving you the one that everybody kind of knows about, but Steve Covey's Living the 7 Habits. I've used that a lot with even with my staff. It's this whole thing about your sphere of control versus your sphere of influence. That's a good read out there, but one that I kind of like, it's kind of fun. It's a quick read. The book is called The Leadership Secrets of Attila the Hun. So
that sounds like a hardliner kind of book.
It takes the hardliner and says, okay, but it goes about, the discipline and having, the expectations and all that kind of stuff into it. And it's kind of it's a fun read. It's a quick read. That's why I said I would recommend that one. Yeah, all the ones out there, you can spend your time reading them, but that's a fun one.
So how can Construction Nation get a hold of you?
Probably LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn.
Okay, we'll put together your link and we'll put it in the show notes for you. And so parting advice for us, what can we do starting today or tomorrow to really begin to implement the kind of collaborative leadership that you have embraced?
I would say work on expanding your sphere of influence. This goes back, I mentioned the Steve Covey Living the 7 Habits, but your sphere of control is, your direct reports and what you control, what you can order to happen. But your sphere of influence is what you can effect to happen. If you talk about something, if Hutton talks, people listen type, that whole old commercial and everything. But if you can talk and people are listening to you because they like your advice you give, they like your outcomes that you give. So it's really working on what we do is listening to others and coming up with that good solution that everybody's happy with, and that will increase your sphere of influence, and therefore allow you to have a bigger impact on what you do on everything in everyday life even.
That's cool. Very, very good advice. So I thank you so much for being a guest on Construction Dream Team. I know that this will be very helpful to a lot of different leaders who are out there dealing with low bid environment and difficult teams and a conflict on their project, which just happens. And I know that you will help them a great deal, and I appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Sue. Thanks for having me.
Okay, everyone. So This was a great episode. Share it with your team. Talk about these things. Learning doesn't just happen unless we really talk about it and implement things. So implement something that you learned today. And for those of you who are interested, we are still doing our construction scorecard beta testing. And I've really been overwhelmed with the positive feedback we've gotten with those people who are utilizing the scorecards now on their projects. And we are open to having other teams join and use it. And we've learned a lot about ways to make it improved and ways people are using it. So just give me a shout out at sue@constructiondreamteam.com. And you too can be having the construction scorecards on your projects and get the momentum score. So with that, I think that this has been an awesome episode. And I hope everyone out there in the Construction Nation will have a wonderful week and enjoy listening to this episode and sharing it with everyone on their team. And with that, I will say goodbye and thank you again. And we will catch you next time.